Hi, this is Proxam. Welcome to this episode of Living and Working Abroad. We thought we would prepare a series of short vlogs and blogs and information for family and business living and working abroad about coping with Corona. And my question is, are we in a World War Cee? Are we in World War Cee against an enemy that could have a dramatic impact on the way the world is? And potentially, is it going to change the fundamentals of how the world was before this outbreak came upon us in 2020? So I thought I'd first of all look at giving it some perspective. 100 years ago, we had the World War One, where 2 million German soldiers died, but 36 million Russians died. A total of 4 million people died in World War One. So it created this dramatic change where a whole generation of fighting people and civilians were wiped out between 1914 and 1918. But that figure was then exceeded in theory by Spanish flu. Spanish flu was a new virus that came upon mankind. A flu is not a cold virus, it's different, but still, because it was a brand new virus to humans and there was no antibodies and immunities within the human beings, it spread rapidly around the world and potentially killed up to 50 million people. So, you know, a second big impact, ravaging cities, communities and countries around the world. But again, all of that was dwarfed by World War II, where 20 million Chinese, 24 million Russians, and 60 million people in all died. Not just the 15 million military people, but the 45 million civilians as well. 60 million people died on World War II. So what was the difference between the Roaring 30s and the post World War II era, in which many of the current institutions in which the world is based, including things like the World Health Organization, the EU, the United Nations, were created. So it had a massive impact on the world from the 30s to the 50s of how everything changed. Is it going to be like that? We could go back to 410. An infamous year, but that's the year that Goths sacked Rome. Now, Rome was already down on its luck a bit, but the Roman Empire was the civilized world that the Europeans called it, because it's the only world they knew. The Chinese, the Africans, the Indians, and the Americans were still living very happily without being interfered with by the Roman civilized world. But come as it may, the Goths got in there first, and that was an epoch-changing situation where for hundreds of years Rome had been the centre of civilization. And again, it brought about a massive change from the classical era of Greece and Rome into the Middle Ages and medieval Europe situation. So massive changes. So are we in for that sort of situation now with this pandemic? Now, organisations like the World Health Organization have created procedures and policies and practices for governments around the world to implement in the case of a pandemic, which is what they're doing. And there's variations on the theme all around the world. We're creating this lockdown situation to try and control the virus and set it off. It's a brand new virus to humans. We don't know how it's going to impact long term. It's not unrelated to the common cold coronaviruses, which is part of that, but it is a new virus. Therefore, it will have an impact on everybody who gets it. So it's an interesting scenario. And what we've got is a situation where effectively the economies of the world are being closed down. So how is that going to impact both individuals and business living and working abroad? Quite dramatically, I should imagine. What we need to do first of all is not get caught up in the mass hysteria, but look to look after ourselves, our family, our teams, our business and our clients, and then see how we can go from there. But what we should expect in our lifestyle as expats, with business, with overseas property, with family, is that dramatic changes will result, and we can see that going on already. And for more know-how, you can get that from our website at proactpartnership.com. But we've got a poem up there that you could download from 1927, Desiderata, which teaches us to be hopeful, to look forward, be cheerful, and strive to be happy. The kind of focus that we need to be on now, while we look to see how things change as a result of World War Cee. Keep in touch with us, register at our website, and we'll see you again next time at Proact Partnership, Living and Working Abroad.